Hi there, I'm Craig Cruz, author of MUSSOPO and His Great Adventure, and we're reading through the book. We are on chapter 11. I'm looking forward to getting started reading with you, so let's get started. Chapter 11, You Shall Not Pass. The four friends were startled awake as they heard the voice of an old man yelling at them and swinging a large broom. He hit Moki across the back. With a loud yelp, they hurried out the stall door toward the large door of the barn that stood wide open. They could hear the old man still yelling for them to get out of his barn as they ran across the field. That was not a very warm welcome, MUSSOPO said when they were far enough from the barn to stop and catch their breath. Star looked at Moki. Did he hurt you with that broom? It didn't feel good across my back, but it could have been worse, Moki said as he thought back to some of the times that he had been mistreated by humans. He remembered being kicked and having rocks and other objects thrown at him. He had spent most of his life not being wanted, not being accepted. He imagined again what it would be like to have a family care for him, what it would be like to have a child pet him instead of kick him. His mind went back to the two ladies on the trail and how they had fed him soft bread. That brought his mind back to his new friends that he was journeying with and how thankful he was to have someone that cared for him. As his memories faded, he saw Star silently looking at him. "Are you okay?" she said softly. "I am," Moki smiled, the nearly toothless grin that they had all become familiar with. Finally, the four gathered their wits and MUSSOPO pointed the way east toward the town. They walked on. Another day had passed. They had little interaction with anyone for the day. It had been very windy, and they had experienced leaves blowing around them most of the day. They swirled between them, and the wind was chilly. The weary travelers shivered as the sound and sight of rustling leaves moved around them. It was still enjoyable for them. As evening approached, the wind became even colder and brought with it snowflakes. The snow drifted around them in the air, but seemed to disappear as it hit the ground. It was very pretty, and they all enjoyed the feel of the snowflakes as the flakes tickled their noses and landed in their mouths. As day turned into night, the lights of the town came to life. It was a sight to see. They were very close now and had already avoided numerous humans as they walked. The town glowed with lights and sounds. They all wondered what it would be like once they arrived. As they came across the last little hill that dropped toward the city, they were filled with anticipation. They knew that they were close. At once they found themselves to the edge of a great road. The highway was large and cars drove by at high rates of speed. They stopped, unsure of how to cross. The headlights of the vehicles blinded them with bright lights that shone from them. "How will we ever get to the other side?" asked Star, very afraid. "I've done it many times," Moki said. He continued, "but I have faster legs than you do, and this can be very dangerous." "Maybe we should go further down the road and hope for a safer place to cross," MUSSOPO suggested. "This is not like a river. I think it'll be bad all the way down," said Trey. They stood for a while until a fast car swerved toward the four of them, causing them to jump out of the way. They stayed further back away from the road, trying to come up with a plan. Moki offered to make numerous trips across, carrying each one on his back until they were all safely across. While this might work, they decided to walk along the road, hoping for a safer way to cross. This had been a mistake, for as they walked, they came across a cat that had not made it across the busy road. It lay lifeless beside them on the road. They were all saddened and walked further away from the town to the east, hoping for a safe passage. Cars still sped by them as they walked. As they continued, the travelers came across another victim of the highway, this time a raccoon. Star began to cry, and the friends turned and walked solemnly back into the woods behind them. "Let's stop for the night and try to come up with another plan. We do not want to meet the fate of the poor old cat and raccoon that we have seen," MUSSOPO said. The four of them curled up together under a tree as the snowflakes still spun around them. They closed their eyes as the sound of speeding cars filled their ears. Their bellies were empty, but they rested comfortably, nestled in together for the night. During the night, Moki heard a noise in the woods and sat very still, waiting to see what kind of animal that it was. He listened, but with his hearing, he couldn't tell what it was. He slowly slid out from around his friends, causing MUSSOPO to murmur softly but not wake up. He quickly caught the scent of the raccoon as it had wandered past their tree. Moki started back toward his friends. When in the still of the night, he noticed that he no longer heard the speeding cars on the road. He ran to the edge. As the headlight of a lone small car shone in his eyes, he quickly realized that now is the time to cross the quiet roadway, and he ran back to wake his friends. It didn't take the other three long to awaken and understand Moki's discovery. They quickly assembled next to the road. They watched for a moment. Car headlights appeared, shining brightly and then fading in the distance as it sped past them. "Can we make it since there are still cars on the road?" Star asked timidly. "There are fewer cars now," said MUSSOPO. "Star, you can ride on my back if you would feel safer." Moki leaned to the ground toward the small rat as she quickly climbed upon the thin dog. They stood waiting, not seeing any other vehicles, but still afraid to make the long trek across the 4 lanes of asphalt. They finally started, but suddenly saw headlights making their way at a high rate of speed down the highway. They all froze, thankful they were not halfway across the road. After it passed, they waited again, holding out hope that no more cars would come again. Finally, they took their first steps, Moki walking slowly, allowing the rat and possum to keep pace with him. They made it to the midpoint, crossing double yellow lines. They felt relief as they were halfway to their destination. It started as a low rumble under their feet. They all felt it and stopped briefly before seeing the bright lights of a large truck carrying a large load of timber that had been cut from the forest. It was coming right for them. Moki, with Star on his back, started running to the other side. MUSSOPO joined them, although much slower in the quest to cross, but Trey stopped. Scared of the massive truck, he turned back, separating from his friends. At once the truck was upon them. Seeing the dog, the truck driver swerved to avoid the impact. The maneuver allowed Moki, Star, and MUSSOPO to be missed by the large wheels of the truck. The truck straightened in the road and continued down the highway, leaving the animals confused in the dark. The three quickly gathered their wits about them and turned in the direction of Trey, hoping for the best but fearing the worst, as their memory of the cat and raccoon were still fresh on their minds. Star climbed off Moki's back as the dog raced back into the middle of the road, leaving her and MUSSOPO on the safe side of the highway. When he got to the middle, he didn't see the rat. His eyes scanned the road for any sign of movement, but saw none. He sadly turned back to Star and MUSSOPO, who were watching anxiously on the other side. Moki looked one more time, and once again headlights approached, shining light toward him. Before running to safety, he caught a glimpse of something on the other side of the road. Moki changed direction and darted for that side of the road, narrowly avoiding the speeding vehicle. Moki approached the rat as he lay in a ball beside the road, hoping beyond hope that the rat was okay. "Trey," Moki said hesitantly. To his relief, the rat slowly looked up at the dog with fear in his eyes. "That big truck went right over the top of me. The tires almost ran me over. It actually did run over the tip of my tail," Trey stammered. "But you are alive," Moki said thankfully. Trey smiled softly, glancing at the road and his friends on the other side, when another car went racing by, scaring him as he scooted in closer to Moki. "How will we ever get across?" Trey asked. "I will help you. Just crawl onto my back like Star did." Moki lowered himself toward the rat. "But I am larger and heavier than her," he said sadly. "I am still a strong dog," said Moki proudly, although he knew it would be a struggle to get across the wide road. "Is your tail okay?" Moki asked as the rat climbed upon his back. "Yes, a rat doesn't have much feeling in the end of his tail. I didn't even feel the truck run over it," Trey said as he snuggled into the scraggly fur of the dog. Moki darted across the road as fast as he could with the load on his back. They made it to the other side as the 4 animals were reunited. They were thrilled to have made it across. Suddenly, another truck rumbled past them, lighting up the night sky. The truck driver saw the peculiar sight and blew his loud air horn as he passed. The 4 friends walked beside the road before turning toward the bright lights of the city. When they made it to the way that leads into the town, they were stopped in their tracks as they again approached an animal that had succumbed to the dangers of the big highway. This time, to their shock, it was an opossum. It looked like a larger version of MUSSOPO. They all stood there looking at the sad sight, unable to speak. That was chapter 11. This chapter ends with a poem I'd like to read you. It's called The Highway. The road to peace is often filled with things we can't ignore. We try to cross amidst the fear as we search for something more. Be careful as you make your way. The danger is very real. Take a friend to walk with you to share in this ordeal. Remember the trials that you survived, and once you've made it through, continue the journey and find your way, and all your dreams pursue. Thank you for listening to me as I read that chapter. I look forward to reading the next chapter with you. I want to encourage you to read more. I want to encourage you to write. Be creative. And remember, the next chapter can be yours.